Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today in the program, I speak with female professional wrestler Kennadi Brink. Kennadi, who I originally knew as Jessie Kaye. You know, I met her at the Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest a couple years ago and stuff like that. Very nice female professional wrestler. And, you know, that's a great story why the name change happened. I've always wondered about it, and I'm glad she clarified it to me, and it all makes sense. And you'll find out more about that when we get into the podcast, which is full of some really great stories and inspirational stories and tales because, you know, Kennadi, for a short period of time, didn't think she was physically able to be a professional wrestler. She was out of shape. She was in not good shape at all. And she saw that as an obstacle that she would now have to overcome just to get to ground zero of being a professional wrestler. But she didn't let it hold her back. You know, she's worked very hard. You know, she's a very honest, straightforward, hard-working female professional wrestler, and she's chasing after her dream, and she won't let anything stand in her way, especially some of her own limitations that she put on herself and limitations that exist within her and in the business. You know, she's not letting anything hold her back, and nothing held her back from moving down to Florida and training at the Team 3D Academy. And of course, she's doing quite well. She's an integral part of Queens of Combat. She's working for Women of Honor as well as Shine. So good things are coming for Kennadi Brink, and I'm glad that I kind of got in on the ground floor of where she's at and stuff like that. You know, hopefully a lot more good things are going to be coming her way very soon, and she's setting herself up for success, and we talk about that and we build to that, and I really challenge her on the topic of success. I want to know. I want to see where this woman's head's at and how strong and how headstrong she is for her goals and her dreams and achieving them. So you're going to get a good sense of who exactly Kennadi Brink is in this podcast today. So I'm very excited to bring it to you guys today. But as always, I'm also very excited to be part of the Shining Wizards Podcast Network. I can't thank them enough for everything they do for me here and make sure that enough eyeballs and earbuds get to know about the cool kids table that I've got going on here at Stranger in a Southern Land. But make sure you check them out at all their other, I almost forgot to mention their podcasts and stuff like that, because I got a lot of them in their network. I'm just a small integral part of this big, huge network that they've assembled with some really great podcasts, and you should go check them out at shiningwizardsnetwork.com. Also, too, big thank you to my producer, Don, and everything that he does for me. I got another podcast with him, and he produces several other podcasts you should go check out at dsct.tv. And as always, folks, I want to give you some dates, give you some heads up, let you know what's going on. I've got a couple of dates kind of narrowed down. October's a little bit light. It's not as hectic and crazy as September was, but I do have some stuff that I want to let you guys know about. Most notably, if you're listening to this podcast in a timely fashion, make sure you go to the Comedy Zone this Wednesday, September 28th, for the Almost Famous Comedy Show, which is run by Stranger in a Southern Land guest, OG Stranger in a Southern Land guest, Blair Nias. And like I said, it would be at the Comedy Zone this Wednesday, September 28th at the Almost Famous Comedy Show. For more information about that show, make sure you log on to cltcomedyzone.com. And then also to this Saturday, I'll be doing another all-organic open mic at the Evening Muse at 10:30. And of course, the Evening Muse is in Noda, the Arts District of Charlotte, North Carolina. For more information about that show, make sure you log on to eveningmuse.com. And then, of course, while you're out there, you'll probably see that I've got another all-organic open mic on November the 8th. And Tom Simmons will be there, and that is election night, and that show will start at 8:30. So make sure you check that out as well at eveningmuse.com. Now, Wednesday, October 12th, I will be making my return back to Dayton, Ohio, and I will be performing for Rockstar Pro Wrestling. I'm very excited about that, so make sure you check them out at wherever they are at and located online. I didn't look that up beforehand. I'll look that up, and maybe I'll let you guys know that in the upcoming weeks. But Rockstar's very, very good. They got a very good presence online, so make sure you look them up because I will be coming that way Wednesday, October the 12th. Now, Saturday, October 22nd, PWX returns to Hickory, North Carolina. And always, for more information about PWX, make sure you log on to pwxpro.com. Now, Monday, October the 24th, I will be performing at the station like I do just about every Monday that they hold a show. But this Monday, this October 24th show, is very important and very special. I will be doing a featured set, which means I will probably be doing about 20 to 30 minutes, roughly in about that range. So make sure you show up for that. I've been trying to collect some things together and put things together. This is going to be probably my best opportunity at doing like a longer piece, a longer set. So if you enjoy me and want to see basically everything that I've got and everything I've been working on for the last year and a half, this is a good opportunity on Monday, October the 24th at the station in Plaza Midwood in Charlotte, North Carolina. And for more information about that show, make sure you look up Monstrous Comedy on Facebook.com. Now, Friday, October the 8th, I'll be returning back to Clive, Iowa for the Pro Wrestling Revolver. I'm very excited to be making my way all the way back to my home state of Iowa for Sami Callihan's show of Pro Wrestling Revolver. I'm very excited about that show, and I believe more information about that show is prowrestlingrevolver.com. Now, as always, things come up, and I've probably left a couple dates out of there and stuff like that. I'm trying to give you all the big ones and let you know about what more is going on with me and all of my travels and all of my journeys. And I am very, very active on social media, most notably Twitter at ManScoutManning and on Instagram at ManScoutManning. If you have a question about the podcast, make sure you email me at jake@sslshow.com. Or if you're going to book me for an upcoming wrestling event, make sure you email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into this wonderful conversation that I have with Kennadi Brink here on Stranger in a Southern Land. Yeah, it's all a thing. So you know how to work this? You understand?
It's a microphone.
It's a microphone.
Talk into it. I don't scream into it.
Yeah. You definitely don't throw it down.
Oh.
Dear God, don't do that.
Pipe bomb.
Like
Bombs of pipe.
I just see every sound man cringe when I see that happen.
No! Don't do it.
Like the one time like Tesla just spiked a fucking microphone like to start the show.
Are you going to pay for that?
Yeah, she just spiked it. I'm like, what? Like you realize these things exist? Like
No.
like
She doesn't.
obviously. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
Who knows?
She's never done the audio before.
Yeah, or pay for audio. I guess.
Probably not. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows?
Perhaps.
Maybe she's a DJ on the side.
Yeah, that's her part-time.
Maybe she's a DJ.
That's her part. Yeah, I can see Tessa BB Blanchard.
Yeah.
No?
D4G. DJ 4G.
Wicked.
Drops that bass like.
No, I can't see
No,
that
I
happening.
can't see
No.
that. No. We tried. We tried to make that riff work, but
Yes.
it didn't work out so well. But
No,
anyways,
it's all right. It's all right.
I'm not sitting with Tessa Blanchard right now. I'm sitting with Kennadi Brink.
Kennedy the Kennedy Brink.
Kennadi the Kennadi Brink.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's me. Maybe. I don't know. You can just say Kennedy Brink.
Yeah. Like I said, I knew you as somebody else, and now you were a Kennedy. But then I overheard the reason why you're Kennadi Brink. I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense because you were Jessie Kaye to me forever.
Yes.
So.
For a lot of people, forever.
Yes.
I was Jessie Kaye for myself forever too.
Okay, so that's your real name. So you were wrestling under your real name.
Yes. Well, not the K part. Because my real name is spelled Jessica with the K. So I just took the K, put it K, yeah.
Okay, because that's how you probably... I'm Jessica with a K. And then you took the K. Okay, so you did something clever there.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, I thought so, but no one really got it, I guess, in that respect. But
far more clever than what I did. Like, I really like my first name, Jake. There's like 2 Mannings that are quarterbacks in NFL. Yeah, I'll just take that. There you go.
Insert,
because nobody can pronounce my last name. So
exactly.
Let's leave it that way.
But no. So yeah, I was Jessie Kaye for my first few years in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, when I went to Shimmer and whatnot for like my first few like Sparkle matches, or was it? It is Sparkle there too, right? Maybe. Well, pre-show, pre-show.
Yeah, whatever they're it's Sparkle, yeah. So
they said, well, we have an Allison Kay, we have like a Jessica Havoc. There's lots of Jessies out there. So if we do use you, and even Jessie McKay at the time, before she was signed, they're like, so if we do use you, then you're gonna just have to change your name. So, and that was before I went to Team 3 and all that stuff. So, when I was there, I did the Sparkle matches, and I used J.K. Kennedy. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. So I used it, and everyone seemed to like it. So, but when I did move to Florida and did Team 3D, and they told me for like 6 months, we're not going to do shows with you. You're just gonna train, and we're gonna start over with you. And I was like, all right, that's fine.
No, let's take a step back.
Let's like rewind
because I wanted to get in this with you because
it's kind of a lot. It's like a
Well, also too like when I first met you, you were doing just the Legends Fan Fest, and obviously you impressed everybody that was running, the Les Thatchers, the Briscoes, and Tom Pritchard and stuff like that. You won that prestigious Reed Flair scholarship.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. It was my friend Bobby Shields actually told me, let's do the camp. I'm like, you want to do it? I'm like, let's see. It was a few $100. I'm like, Charlotte, my family lives there now. So I was like, why not? Let's go. Let's do it. And so it was about 40 people, 40 people, guys and girls that were there. And it was a 3-day thing. And when they announced my name, I just couldn't believe it. Like legitimately tears of insanity at $2,500 to use however I wanted for my wrestling career, which was really cool. And going to Team 3D in Florida was something that I always told myself in the back of my head that I wanted to do, but never thought I'd actually do it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to train in Florida. I want to go to Florida, but then, well, here's the money. What's stopping you now?
Yeah.
Well, I guess nothing. So so I did, and I went. So
because I was wondering about that. Is that people, you came on everybody's radar, at least in this area,
right?
And you could have like lived here in Charlotte and stuff like that, and that's a lot. Well, a lot of those like big time wrestling shows were popping up.
Right.
A lot of Northeast stuff. There's good things happening here,
right.
And all of a sudden you just took off for Florida, and like I was like, I don't know if that was the best business decision because you just came online with everybody. Like there was a lot of promoters that go there, and you left. Like you could have got a lot of work.
Right.
Wrestling on shows with like you could add like wrestle Mickey James in front of 2,000 people in a big time wrestling show. I was like,
right.
I don't really know quite the thought process did that ever cross your mind and stuff like that?
To be honest, I think I was really just centered on Florida big time.
That's what you were thinking.
That's like, I was so focused on that. Reason being is that when I first started in wrestling, a guy named Pat Brink really helped me with my weight loss initially, with getting in the ring for the first time, my first few bumps. And he was always kind of a mentor for me. And he went to 3D. Mm-hmm. And he was always planted in my head. Even he didn't want me to start training in Maryland at all initially. He was like, finish college, do your thing, and then just go down to Team 3D. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of the one that ultimately planted the seed for me to go. And I think it was a good decision only because it got me in a far better condition in the ring and mentally and everything. Because I think that was one of the big things that was holding me back was my in-ring conditioning and my strength and my wind and being strongest the longest and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that even crossed my mind as to staying and doing stuff like that here in North Carolina. I don't know. I really didn't even.
Yeah, because that was the first thing I thought of. But then when you say that, it does make a little bit of sense because that's how focused I was on the East Coast because I started in the Midwest.
Right.
And like Cole Cabana said, the place to be was the East Coast because there's all the shows up in Philly and then Florida. So I figured Charlotte was halfway between all that.
Yeah.
So I was focused on that, but I could have stuck around the Midwest and got on some IWA Mid-South shows, right. Which a lot of people got a lot of attention for, or I was wrestling in Gastonia National Guard Armory in front of 40 people.
Right.
As opposed to the good crowd that we had last time.
Yeah, it was an awesome crowd.
And it had old timers that never did anything tell me like just work an arm, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where I could have been in IWA Mid-South just going nuts with everybody else.
Exactly.
So like I always think about that, but then I guess like you get so focused on something, you don't see the other opportunity.
Get the blinders going.
Yeah.
But I was here for a few months,
mm-hmm.
Training with George South, it's funny because I just always saw you guys in the background doing this. So no, I'm like, I'm not George South, but feel like I'm doing this with you.
Oh, so. You're not? I could tell.
No, I know. Like, Wendy's,
Yeah.
So, no, I was there for a while. They let me train there for a little bit after I had hurt my ankle. So they really treated me good there in High Spot. So I appreciate them a lot in my transition from Maryland to ultimately Florida. So I always make sure to tell them how much I appreciate it because they really took care of me. So.
Yeah, we try and look out for people the best we can.
Exactly.
But let's take an even bigger step back.
Rewind.
Bigger step back.
Oh my God.
So you grew up in Maryland and stuff like that, but like I find it very fascinating, and I'm trying to dig deep to the core of this, as far as like females and female wrestling and stuff like that. And I have long conversations with me and my girlfriend Josie. We talk about it because I'm very intrigued and how that a young woman becomes interested in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, how did that exposure come into your life, and how did it become something that you wanted to do?
Sure. Literally for me, there was no family member that was interested in it. I didn't have any friends before me that were interested in it. It was legitimately, I'm sitting in bed before going to bed and flipping through the channels, and it just pops on. I think it was like Chris Jericho and Triple H or something like that. And I'm like, it's pretty cool. Interesting. And then at the time, I think 7-Eleven was doing campaign with like the Slurpees and things like that. So then that's how I got the times for the shows. That's how I knew when to turn on to watch it some more. So, and then I was just hooked. You know, it's that drug. It's like every week, gotta watch it.
What was the thing that hooked you? Like, what's the thing that you're like, I'm watching this show because of this?
I couldn't tell you one specific tangible thing. I don't know.
Like some people it's the personalities,
right?
Some people it's the physicality.
Yeah.
Some people it's just the over the top characters and how they talk and stuff like that.
I don't know if it was that moment that I knew, but ultimately looking back at everything, it's that emotional connection, that little bit of a spark that you feel, that little heart flutter when you think about going to a show, or you think about you're watching something like a program, and it's, for me, I love promos and having that back and forth conflict. So I think that's it for me, is that the more of the promo side rather than the physicality side of why I fell in love with it. Of course, I love it all, but the promo investment, God, I hate that person, but God, I love this person type of thing. So kick his ass or kick her ass or something, you know. So.
Yeah, it's something you don't even think about. Like, it wasn't until like recently I had to dissect why it is I had to like it, because I've been doing this for about over a decade now. Like, why am I still doing this?
You lose it.
Yeah,
I think sometimes you lose that passion, or sometimes you lose that little heart flutter. But then sometimes I'll go back and I'll watch old YouTube clips or something like that, and then feel it again. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, because
that's why
I actually found the first match I ever watched, in which I don't even know how I even
remember.
Yeah, well, no, I remember it.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know how I watched it, because I think I saw it on Spectravision, and it had to have been on a Coliseum tape that my parents rented, and they knew I was a fan. But one of my earliest memories, actually my first memory of pro wrestling, but obviously it happened before, but I didn't come online yet,
right?
As Louis C.K. would say, was Ted DiBiase versus Junkyard Dog, and they had a promo of Ted DiBiase giving a promo, and then he was in the ring, and then Junkyard Dog comes out, and everybody stands on their feet.
Yeah.
And it was a very large arena, because I think it was like Philadelphia, and everybody gets on their feet. And the idea of like, wow, nobody stands on their feet when I walk in the room.
Yeah. It's like, there's a presence here. This guy must be pretty important.
Exactly. And that's back when they were still using like copyrighted music. So he was coming out to Another One Bites the Dust. But you couldn't hear that because the mix on in the tape.
Course, yeah.
But the live audiences, that's what they're hearing when he comes out.
Right.
So they're going nuts.
Yeah.
So like that's what I remember, and that's what I got hooked on immediately. It was just that, like you said, that interaction, that connection with everybody.
Exactly.
You know,
legitimately caring. And then, you know, I loved it. That was around probably 4th or 5th grade that I picked it up and just became obsessive all through middle school and high school. But actually knowing that I wanted to be part of it was something different, because I wanted to be creative, because I always wrote stories, and I was very...
Well, you're the weird little girl that likes wrestling.
Yeah, we're super, like, big T-shirts, and that's all I wore.
So you were wearing wrestling T-shirts and stuff like that. How
Every
did
day.
How did everybody react around you? Like, how did the boys react to that?
Yeah, I was a social outcast, man. I didn't have many friends. You know, the girls, I had, you know, my close girlfriends, I guess, not too many. But things like I would go to sleepovers or whatever, and they would do their video dance sessions, or, record it and make our own music videos. And no one wanted to be on my team or my group, because I wanted to do it to Triple H's theme, that kind of stuff. And everyone else is like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, Yeah,
that's always what's weird, is when you're a wrestling fan, you almost become slowly drifting away from people.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
And that's why when you become a pro wrestler, the natural inclination that you start losing your friends as you first start to get in. And that's just usual, because that's the process you felt your entire life is you're doing it right, and you pull away from your friends. And that way, when you start training and it becomes more active in pro wrestling, you start pulling away. But then you run into all these other people that are now your friends.
Like-minded people.
That have had that same issue of like, yes. I have these friends and we drift away.
They don't understand me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, but people generally, they understood why, or they understood that I liked wrestling, or I was the girl that liked wrestling type thing. So, I was in high school wearing like, the only reason I would wear a trench coat is for like the Undertaker type thing. I was the trench coat wearing, black t-shirt wearing.
Now, did you have to get pulled into the principal's office for a long trench coat? Because that would be about the time where that would not be very
socially accepted. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, honestly, because I was like the nerd too. Like I never got in trouble.
Once again, more of a reason for you wearing a long black trench coat to school might not have been a good idea.
Exactly. So, just the nerd, I never could do anything wrong in the teacher's respect. So, and I never got into fights, but in that respect too, like, I would never stand up for myself either. Mm-hmm. Like I remember in like 8th grade, this kid at the time, it was Undertaker and Randy feuding like SummerSlam wise. I forget the year. And Randy was doing the Legend Killer stuff and he spit in Undertaker's face. So a kid found it funny to spit in my face. Yeah, it was because I guess he liked Randy and I liked the Undertaker, obviously. So, and I was the kind of person.
What did you do? Like, okay, I'll be Randy, you be Undertaker, and then
I just remember being in the stairway and him turning around and spitting in my face, and everyone just like, and the kind of person I was, I took it and I walked away.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of like I just didn't have the confidence or the esteem to be like just start nailing him or slap him or anything. I just was like, and just walked away. So I can't actually get teary-eyed thinking about it. But yeah, that's the kind of person I was.
Okay.
So wrestling was the thing that got me through. Mm-hmm. So hey, but I'm here now. So and doing well. So
what was the inclination that I can do it? Like, what was the thing? Because like you would have been exposed to Tough Enough about the same time you got into wrestling, right? Like, right. Or at least were aware of it.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's like people's exposure to like, okay, people actually get trained to do this.
Right, it's a possibility, right? I don't think Tough Enough was like a trigger for me at the time. I don't think it was something that they could do it. I could. I don't think that was a thing. I think it's always been a mental thing of battling my own head.
Yeah, well, not so much like a trigger, but the sense that there is a path to it.
Oh, because, there's a way. Yeah.
Because when I was watching wrestling, like probably, I was probably when I was 12 or whatever, and I was like, man, I'd like to do that, but I'm like,
how? What's the way?
The how and the way that I had in my head was I play at the University of Miami. Jim Ross sees me do the bench press a couple of times.
There you go.
He sees me to just naturally know how to do arm drags immediately. And then I get signed and I debut at Madison Square Garden under the name Rocky Maivia.
Perfect.
That was the only path that I knew existed
right.
to being a professional wrestler. And
right.
then, of course, I saw the A&E documentary, You Want to Be a Wrestler. And then Tough Enough also came out in high school. So I'm like, okay, they get trained. But
right.
then I saw that there was independent wrestling.
Right.
Like on this A&E documentary, I'm like, are you kidding me? There's a way? Like, right. There's a school?
There's, yes.
And there's not, like,
there's a path to actually go?
Yeah,
right.
like that. Like, when did those things start connecting for you? Like, well, how did you, like, there is a path, and how do I get there, and how do I place myself there?
It was probably my last few years of high school. But I never initially thought that I could. It was more of a let me be creative side of things. Let me be a writer. Let me be involved in that somehow. Because I was 240 pounds. I never was an athlete. I didn't play sports. I didn't go to the gym. I sat behind my computer and typed stories, like, and lived vicariously.
Well, what type of
wrestling.
Stories? Like, what were you thinking?
Like, stories with the Undertaker, stories of like me being backstage at shows.
So they were just wrestling stories.
Yeah, yeah.
You were grooming yourself to be like a writer for WWE.
Legitimately, like the stupid role playing things, like with the characters. Like that was the stuff I did.
Yeah, you did that. You had that spec script, but then of course, right. like, well, I got to work on Friends first, and then I can or work on Guiding Light, and then I can come over to WWE. So
exactly,
yeah, that's the sub.
And and it was like one of those things where I would go on the WWE page and be like, all right, so what degree do I have to have? And then that's what I was like, oh, well, that's going to be my degree in college. Sounds good, and that's my path. And then I'm like, my friend we were that like neighbors type thing, not in school. She was a little bit older. Mm-hmm. We were both big girls, and she lost a lot of weight. And I'm like, maybe I could lose a lot of weight. And then so I went to the gym and I was on the elliptical for like 5 minutes and I couldn't do it for 5 minutes at the lowest resistance. And I was 16, 17. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, wow, this really is no good, is it? And I just remember looking up at the ceiling and like, I don't know why it's like a trigger, but it was like, what's really stopping and holding me back from doing whatever I want in life? What's really holding me back? I'm young. I could put the work in. There's plenty of time. Let's actually go and try to be a wrestler. Let's do it. So I don't know, like no one told me. I was, so I was just kind of like yeah.
That's a very adult thing to come up with at 16. Like, how do you?
I've always been
like process to that point. Like, what? Yeah. Like, did that come from like your parents, or like the idea of just processing what's holding me back? Let's fix the thing that's holding me back. Because I know a lot of kids are like, well, I guess it's not going to happen for me. I'll cover a different path. Or like, oh, I don't care.
Right.
You know, oh, I suck at it, whatever, and I'm done. Or, parents will tell you, oh, you're great no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where did the idea of like critically thinking, okay, what do I want to do? What are the things that are holding me away? That's a very unique thing. Like, where did that upbringing, where did that thought process come from?
I think the fact that I've always, when I was younger, was trying to lose weight was a thing, and it just never really worked. I would like lose like 10 and then just go back up and maybe even gain more type thing. Going to the doctor, it's always, you got to get it down type thing. And then it's pretty stupid. I use this in promos a lot because it's a true story, but like my dad and myself and my friends would always like late at night during the summers, we would try to all right, let's get into a routine. Let's do it. Let's like walk around the block a few times. And then I just remember like being so sad and him saying, Jessica, no one's going to take you seriously in life unless you lose weight.
Ooh.
And it's like, yeah, that's true.
It's weird that the just a side comment that a parent make that triggers something you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you build off of it.
Right. And it's not like he's a malicious father and he wants to beat me down and no. Because he's a big guy too and he struggles with his weight and things like that. But I think that also has to deal with that because I guess he sees it in the corporate world where, someone is considered lazy or is has that look or to them or that aura. They look sloppy or they're overweight, that they're lazy or they don't want to contribute or, you know what I mean? They have that, they repel that. So he doesn't want that he never wanted that for me. And he was just trying to help me, but I remember it, and it always has stuck with me. So I think that's one of the things that maybe triggered it at that moment at the gym when I was just sitting there and I'm like, I'm so young and I'm so out of shape. I have nothing to me. Mm-hmm. So let's do something about it. Let's go for it. Let's chase whatever I've ever wanted, not settle. Don't be mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Well, what's the first step? Obviously, lose the weight. Like how deep in did you get to it?
So my parents, they are many a times I put the money for things, for me to try to lose weight. So they were like, if you want to go to the gym and you want to have a membership, you're gonna pay for it. So I was like, cool. So I worked at the Disney store. That was horrible.
What do you mean? I love the Disney store.
I love the Disney store too, but not for 8-hour shifts and all the little children going around and moving the stuffed animals and unfolding all the T-shirts that I just folded and I got to be there.
That is true. It is a very well-organized store. And when you're going to let kids in there, so obviously somebody's doing it and doing it at a hyper rate. Woo! Probably. So bad.
Yeah. So bad. But anyway, it was so nice like after I quit and I would just go in there and be like, I'm leaving. Bye-bye. I'm free. Yes. So I worked at the Disney store. I got a gym membership. My friend that had lost weight previously helped me out with that. But I didn't get very far. Like I probably in a year or so, I lost maybe 10 or 15 pounds because my diet was still crap. Right. So, and at the time I was also introduced to independent wrestling because a friend that I met through a CM Punk signing, we went to a CM Punk signing. We met each other there. And
was he with the WWE at the time? I'm trying to figure out the time frame.
I don't know what year it was. I just know CM Punk was a signing at Best Buy. It was probably 2006, 2007.
Yeah, he would have been signed.
2006, 2007, because actually it was one signing where it was supposed to be a Mr. Kennedy signing, but then they pulled him and CM Punk was replaced. And I was like, no.
So the name Kennedy's always been a favorite of yours.
Ah, yes.
Favorite president, John F. Kennedy.
Exactly. So yeah, so I was really upset that CM Punk was replacing him, but CM Punk was really nice that day, so it worked out. But I met my friend Sarah through that website, or not that website, that signing. And we hooked up on MySpace and we talked, and she's like, hey, because she's from Virginia and we're in Maryland. Mm-hmm. She's like, there's an independent wrestling show in Maryland near you. Me and my friend Jamie, we're going to come to it. You're only like 30 minutes away. Do you want to go? And I'm like, what's independent wrestling? What is this? This is weird. And it's actually. So
you were like me. Yeah. That you didn't know it existed.
No, completely oblivious.
And that's the thing, like, you were such a super fan. We're gonna get into the whole thing
yes.
here because this is what I'm trying to dissect too. Like, I understand in my era of being a kid and growing up in Iowa, not knowing independent wrestling existed because it barely exists right now in the state.
Yes.
Like, Sami Callihan probably runs the biggest independent wrestling promotion in Iowa, and he's only run one show, and he runs it in Des Moines, which is 3 hours from where I'm from.
Right.
So, and this is before social media, so I would only have to see a poster. I saw one poster one time when I was in college, when I was 21 years old, for an independent wrestling show.
Right.
In, like, all of my years of going in gas stations and places that they would put up a poster.
And you never saw.
And I never saw, and the traveling with my parents, I never came in interaction or even touched it except for this one poster, and then I never saw anything again until I started.
Right.
So, like, I understand that, but then I think, like, well, if I lived in North Carolina, where every street would have been that way. Now you're in Maryland,
right?
Where it is a little bit restrictive there,
right?
But there was Maryland Championship Wrestling. There were other promotions. They're definitely more so than Iowa,
right?
But you're such a super fan. The internet kind of exists in a sense.
Right.
How do you not stumble upon it?
I have no idea, and I probably should have ahead of time because it's funny because where they ran was in a bingo hall, which happens to be the same bingo hall where my father worked for years, even before I was born, because he was a bingo clerk, so he would be there. So the same place they run is the same place my dad's worked for over 20 some years at the time. So it doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, he might have seen posters and might have told me, but I don't know if I brushed it off because that's not WWE or
so it was a sense that you didn't recognize anything other than WWE,
right?
Which would probably make WWE very happy to hear.
You love me, right, guys?
Exactly. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I wonder because, like, when the WWE comes into Time Warner Arena, and there's thousands upon thousands of people, and we would get
small percentage just knows.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That was one thing that my boss, the owner of High Spots, Michael, we would get tickets because we have a relationship with it. We give him canvases and turnbuckle pads and stuff like that. We usually get tickets, and we would go, and he would look around at all these people, like, and watch, like, the merch tables and them buying T-shirts, and he's like, he goes, not even 1% of this audience knows my company exists, and we are literally like 2 miles away.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And all of these fans are obviously on social media. They're obviously online. And nobody is aware that my website that sells a lot of the same stuff or better stuff or other stuff even exists.
Right.
Then that's the thing. Like how you cannot connect with those. You know? Because to me, we're in the bubble. Like, I tell people wrestling, they'll come out. But just the idea of, like, if it's on WWE, I don't care.
Right.
Or, like, how do you not stumble upon it?
Exactly. I have no idea. But I guess it's that blinder effect, too, where people are just so zoned in on one thing that they just don't see anything else.
Yeah, because when you log on to WWE, when you want to see wrestling, you just log on to WWE.com.
Right. And then now they have, I mean, at the time, they didn't have the WWE Network or things like that. So now it's even more engulfed in that WWE bubble as a fan, I think.
Yeah, because you're not going to, Bleacher Report to find out something on NFL.
Right.
Like some NFL press release. You're going straight to NFL.com.
Right. Which
is, like I said, way WWE wants it.
Yeah, they're in control, man. They got the.
So they want. That's what they want.
Exactly.
So they can decide how it goes, as opposed to somebody coming
someone else dictating.
Yeah. So. So anyways, you know no independent wrestling exists.
Yes.
And you're going to it.
Go to my first show. I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Like, because you're so used to that WWE environment where you're so far away, but this is so personal and everyone's just into it because there was a guy, Larry Legend, who was the ring announcer, and he had the thing going on at the time with the fire exits, and the whole crowd is just chanting with it, and I'm just like, I love this energy. I want to be part of this. I want to go all the time. And it's really, really stupid because I got there and me and my friends were actually, the numbers of the chairs are on the chairs and we're actually split because the numbers just didn't come out right. We're like, this is insane. This is, to us, this is just out of our complete mind.
Where's the usher that escorts me to my seat?
Exactly. Like, what is going on right now?
Are they going to put up the Titantron sometime soon?
I'm like, what is this? But it was MCW. It was Maryland Championship Wrestling. So they're a pretty, professional company as it is. Like, it wasn't even like the low end of
They're probably the best one in Maryland. I think that I can say that confidently.
Absolutely. So, and then I was like, wow, this is so close to the ring. Let me take a picture, right? Mm-hmm. And then I look back at this photo years later, and I see it, and right at the curtain is actually the guy that helped me through everything, Pat Brink, and he's talking to some girl through the curtain, just like this. I'm like, that's so weird because I watched the show, I loved it. I went on, MySpace and actually like friended like some of the guys or whatever. I don't know how that was able to happen. I friended Pat, and then I kept going to a few shows again and again and again. And then he posted like a MySpace bulletin, that he was actually available for personal training. Oh. And I go, I wonder whatever. Let me see. I'm interested. And then it was because at the time I was clueless as to certifications and things like that. I don't know. I just want to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
This guy looks good. He must know what he's doing, right? I mean, I actually don't think he ever actually had a certification or anything like that. But he would charge me like $20 an hour for 3 times a week. Or something like that, and it was definitely doable. My dad was able to help me out a little bit with that too, and that's just how it happened. And from like June of 2009 to October of 2009, I think I lost like 45 pounds or something like that. So the first year I was on my own, I lost like 10 to 15, and then those few months I lost the rest of it with his help. So yeah. And then that's when I lost the weight, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to actually wrestle Pat. I want to, because that was
how long did it take for you to drop that bomb on him? Like, I want to, like, not only am I getting his personal training, but I'm doing this for pro wrestling.
Right. Probably a month or two in.
Okay, so you waited a bit.
Yeah, and then he was like, okay, because at first it was just a lot of cardio and things like that, and then he's like, well, if you're actually into wrestling, let's implement some more strength stuff. Because I think before that he had already went to Team 3D. Because I know he went to Team 3D. He was signed for a little bit, and then he came back, and then I think he went back down and got signed again, and things like that.
There's a little, because I know I met Pat, I think maybe at a Maryland Championship Wrestling show, and I think it was between one of those times, but also too, I remember him being maybe on a Hermie Sadler show where like the Dudley Boys were on, so I was aware of who he was, and I was like, as you always do, you gotta go to like onlinewrestling.com to figure out this person's story, and I remember kind of that back and forth and him being around, and I could see him being a bigger guy that they would have been interested in.
Right.
So
absolutely, yeah. So I don't remember like the transition of when he.
Yeah, it was when they would bring guys and then take them and then move them, and then they moved Deep South, and Deep South closed, and then they moved these people around. It was one of those weird transition periods and stuff like that. So. Yeah. So
it was December of 2009 when he was able to get me into a ring and help me with my first bumps. It was another thing. I just always feel like I have like these hurdles to climb that everyone else doesn't. But I know people have their own hurdles. But into my head, I have scoliosis as well. So my spine is significantly curved. No one knows the secret. When I was in middle school, on top of being the weird trench coat wearing person,
scoliosis too.
I have scoliosis, so I actually for 2 years wore a thick white brace that was right underneath my chest to my hips, and it would just keep me like this.
So not only did you like professional wrestling, you were also D from It's Always Sunny. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, all right, so my spine is curved. I'm going to throw myself against this plywood. I don't know how this is going to feel because growing up, when it's curving, it's extremely painful. Like it was to points where I just feel like not paralyzed, but like it's like a weird sharp pain. And I was like, I hope I don't take this bump and like I'm gonna shrivel up and like just die. Like this is not good. So it's December, it's cold, there's no heat, there's no AC, one of those buildings type things, and I'm like, all right, here we go, and I did it, and it was fine. It was like, all right. Do it again. Yeah. And it just from there.
Yeah, because it's always the first one that's the scariest.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how my body's going to react to this. I'm like, so let's do it. And then I did, and everything is A-okay.
So anyways, you start training, and then all of a sudden you finally get to the point that you're wrestling.
Kinda.
Okay.
I started there with Pat. It was actually at a school that was not a very good school. So
everybody starts there too. Like,
yeah.
Like I've said a lot of things. The first place that I started was not all that great, but at the same time too, I'm doing it. Right. I'm doing it safely. Right. I'm learning some of the basics and stuff like that. It's just there wasn't that guy that had done it for 20 years that had a little bit of a reputation, but I was learning enough to get by.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It was good. If I wanted to do it once a month, it would have been a perfectly good place, but that was not where my path was headed. So. Right.
Yeah, because Pat had those first few, bumps and whatnot. And then he's like, I can't commit to training you. Like, he realized it was a bigger commitment than it actually, he realized. So he had me go to one of the sessions with the other guys, and they wanted to teach me the universal Tennessee spot in one day. The first day I ever showed up. I just knew bumps, and they wanted me to teach that in one day. So, so I kind of
you've got to learn like basically 4 or 5 moves, basically.
Yeah, and it was
get them correctly and do them fast as possible.
It intimidated me a lot, so I left for like 2 or 3 months. That was like,
yeah, but you can't. Sweetheart, you've done all of this work, losing this weight, and now you overcome the idea of scoliosis. The idea of now having to do moves which you want to get to. Why are you going to run away?
Because I didn't trust these guys, and I think Pat knocked it in my head that they were unsafe, and that I shouldn't be there, and that I should just wait and go to Team 3D after I finished college. So I was scared that I was going to get hurt from these guys. But I came back that May. So from January to May, and I came back, and it worked out because 2 months later, Gilberg's Professional Wrestling Academy opened. But they had a few guys there that were pretty good on the independents, that did some jobs and had a good head on their shoulders, that Pat endorsed, that Dan McDevitt of MCW also endorsed at the time. They weren't, together as a company, the school and him, but he was just like, they're good guys. They know what they're doing.
Who are those guys?
The Holy Rollers, Earl the Pearl and Ramblin' Rich Myers. Okay. And then Ronnie Zuko was also there at the time, independent guys. So those were the main trainers there. And I was, because the first school, actually, of course, less than 6 months of training, got me on shows as a valet. So I obviously was like, wow, I owe this to these guys to stay here now, right? Because I they got me on shows, so I must, keep my allegiance to them.
Yeah, because as you think that very early on, and then also as a girl, you get an accelerated rate. Yes, I think I saw, that fake Twitter account, like Indie Wrestler or whatever that's out there. I think there was a tweet that was saying like, how many months of training has she had, or how long has she been wrestling? A week. All right, she's got a match in 3.
Yes. That's how it works.
It is.
And afterwards, of course, years later, where I've been training and things like that, I was bitter maybe to the girls that did that. But then I look back, I'm like, damn, I did the same freaking thing.
Every girl,
I'm like, crap.
Just about every girl, especially early on. Now it's a little bit more like, we're gonna get you ready, because there's so much out there, because we've seen bad matches before, you know what I'm saying? Where before it was like, oh, it's just girls' match, so they don't fucking care. Exactly. And half the time they're just waiting for a tit to pop out. Exactly. Where now it's like,
legitimately.
No, it's legitimate, which is far better for the sport.
Exactly. Yep. So I was torn. I was like, well, and Pat's telling me, if you don't go to Gilberg's, I'm never going to talk to you again or help you. I'm like, okay. All right. So what I did was to try to, make everyone happy. I went to the other school. I'm like, I'm definitely willing to do both. I would love to train here and I would love to train there. And they looked at me and said, no, you can't do both. And I said, bye.
Yeah. You gave me an out. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was upset. I was crying because this school just opened. So I don't know if it's going to last. I don't know if people are going to stay. So I'm like, and then I'm screwed, right? Because if they don't last and then say they close next month, I have nowhere to go because they're not going to help me back.
Yeah, or at least like Gilbert's got a reputation of being around for a while, and like you probably don't realize it then, but at the same time, looking back, like those guys that were like preliminary guys back in the 80s, they were the best guys to learn from,
right?
Because they were in the ring with all different types of people.
Exactly.
There'd be a situation, they'd be on a TV tape, and they might be wrestling Hector Guerrero,
right?
And then they'd have to wrestle like the Ultimate Warrior,
exactly.
Or they'd have to then wrestle up to Hacksaw Jim Duggan, or they'd have to wrestle Jake the Snake Roberts. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like it all depend. Like those were the best guys to learn from because they were really wrestling everybody in a small amount of time, but they had to learn how to take everybody's moves.
Yep.
So they were the best teachers.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. So it worked out. Out. So I would say that Gilberg's was my first home. So and that was in July of 2010. I was their first student that came through. So, and I would say I did pretty well. And then just worked for MCW and trained. And then my first match was actually not through MCW. It was part of a WXW C4 Allentown. Their show that they do every year. Sports Fest. It's like a big outside thing. And I didn't have gear at all. There's a big guy. His name is Solo. He's just a big jack dude. And I was like, he's got extra Under Armour shorts. I used that, and I used my opponent was Roxy Cotton, Gabby Gilbert, and she had an extra like pink shirt that was like ridiculous. And I put it on, I was just like, and I had tennis shoes on, so I'm like, whatever. I guess this is happening. So, and then that went down. It was actually pretty cool because I called the whole thing. Like she was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, this. She says, okay. So it worked, and that was that.
Okay. So you're on your way, you're getting stuff going.
Yeah.
So now, you get the idea, you get the tunnel. Now we're back to where we were before, with the tunnel vision getting down to Florida.
Yes.
So you finally get down to Florida.
Yes.
You get the Team 3D.
Yes.
What is that experience like? I've talked to a few, I interacted and stuff like that. I'm always curious to know, like I've had interactions with both of them, very small, but like how are Bubba and Devon as trainers, and how do they run their school?
Well, they're two completely different personalities.
So I hear.
Which is great because you get both sides of the coin for everything.
Well, how active are they? Like, are you getting like a lot of Devon, a lot of Bubba, or is like, hey, can your money, and they walk out? Like what?
Right. It's not just the name on the school. That's
okay,
for sure.
that's what I want to clarify and get that out because it doesn't seem like that from what I hear.
Right. So. Well, over the past year or so, they've been with the WWE, so they've been on the road.
Yes,
but
obviously.
Devon would legitimately do his weekend shows, do Raw, do SmackDown, fly in Wednesday morning, and go straight to the school after he flew in. So he would have his bag and he'd be rolling in the door, and he's exhausted, because being on the road is tough. He maybe just had a 4 or 5 a.m. flight, 6 a.m. flight. He's exhausted, but he's coming in, and he might be almost falling asleep, but he's there. He's there. And he's there. It would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He'd be most of the time Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes Friday. Sometimes he have to leave Friday, but otherwise, then Cruz from Los Mendejos would be there. And he's just a mini Bubba and Devon. He's so smart. He's so gifted and talented. So he'd be there, and he'd be the fill-in if neither one of them was there.
Well, before the WWE thing, how active were they in the school?
Same thing. Devon would be there every single day. Then it'll be every single day. Bubba come maybe once or twice a month, because I don't think he lives in Florida anymore. I think he's up like Connecticut area, New York, maybe.
He's got to come down and scare the students.
Yes.
Probably run a few off, because trust me, as we've learned in the high spot school, sometimes you have to you have to test it. You have to test them, because at the same time too, if it's a happy get along gang, then you get 50 students, and then nobody benefits.
Exactly, 120% agree. Because I was at a show at PWX last month, and one of the guys came up to me and was like, nothing intimidates you. No one intimidates you. I'm like, do you know who I do promos in front of, like who comes to my school and just, you know, like Bubba is a very intimidating person.
But you know, it's tough dealing with those people, especially when you're young and you're new. But like now, you look back at those people and like, yeah, you kind of need those people. Like I was very tough on Cedric Alexander. I was very tough on him. Like I just like. You were at the last show where I cut the promo and I said I met you years ago and I proceeded to make the next 2 years of your life a living hell. Because like he obviously had potential, but like if you want to stick around.
Yeah, we got to put you through the grinder.
Yeah, and also too, a lot of the opportunities he was getting, like that were coming along right at that time, were because of a lot of hard work that I'd put in. Building a reputation.
Yeah.
And at the same time too, Caleb was building a reputation for. And now you're just going to hop in a car with us and you're just going to get on these same shows that took us 3 years to get on.
Exactly.
And all we have to do is take 3 seconds and say that you're with us and now you're on that show.
Exactly.
So we were merciless to him. But at the same time too, by the time he got to Ring of Honor and got Jim Cornette yelling at him, it's like, he goes, well, Jake, Jim Cornette about the same thing, which I feel like was a compliment.
Like, wow, that's a good level to be at.
Yeah, I could choose somebody out just that bad. That's very nice.
Exactly.
So, but like that's what you have to have very early on. And at the same time too, if they're not going to stick around, you know what I'm saying? Like how
tough are you? How bad do you really want it?
Yeah, and how do you think the rest of this stuff's going to go down?
Exactly.
Like. Really funny comedian Mike Lawrence like tweeted something and it stuck in my head and it kind of resonates now as we're talking about this with pro wrestling. Like he tweeted something out saying like he goes, I don't understand why people complain about being put on late on an open mic. How do you think the rest of show business is going to go for you? Right. You know what I'm saying? Is the idea of like if it's not tough now, you know what I'm saying? How are you going to deal with it later? How are you going to deal with it later? You know what I'm saying? And if it's the toughest now and if you make it really tough now and it gets easier, isn't that kind of the way you want it to go?
Exactly.
Because you know right now is going to suck because you don't know anything.
Right.
But at the same time too, you have enough passion to fucking counteract that.
Right.
And it's just everything else that you have to get past.
Exactly. So. Like it's great when he's there because you know you can just feel the energy of everyone just like, oh God, don't say anything.
And then that's
wrong.
when you make mistakes sometimes. Because you try not to make mistakes, and that's always worse. And it always happens when you wrestle somebody that you have a lot of admiration for, or they're obviously the power dynamic is much higher than yours, and then you end up making mistakes you never would have made.
Exactly.
You know, because you're out of your comfort zone.
Exactly, and it's good to be out of your comfort zone sometimes. Like he's a big, he'll be Devon not as much as far as promos and stuff, but when Bubba's there, you know it's promo day, and he will be there, and he might be standing up, he might walk into the other room, he might be just on his phone. He might not be looking at you. He might walk outside while you're doing this promo, and it's just like, okay, cool. And then it's never, that was awesome, that was great. It's always good, but this is what you should have done. You know, it's always that but, which is great because I'm not going to learn anything, and I'm not going to get anything out of it if everything is always good, great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's what you need. It's those things you need. And at the same time, too, if you know that that's what you're in for, like I'm never gonna be that person. Like the first couple of times, you're like, maybe I'm gonna be the person that does, and then you realize, no, he'll never do that.
No.
And then that's almost a comforting thing.
Yeah.
Then that's when you start relaxing. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's just whatever. I mean, I'm just gonna do the best I can, and as long as it doesn't punch me in the face, it's great.
Exactly. That's the only goal. Is no physical violence.
Yeah.
But anyways, Team 3D, you're down there all the time.
Yes.
You know, you're in Florida.
I love it.
You've been progressing now, obviously.
Yes.
Like how are things now? Do you feel like you're on a path? Like where do you see yourself like right now in wrestling? And looking back to that girl that was on the treadmill for 5 minutes and couldn't do it.
Yes.
Like do you still feel like you have far more miles to go, or do you feel like, okay, at least I'm pointing in the right direction?
Right. I definitely feel like I'm in the best place I have ever been. At the same time, I'm very, very hard on myself because there's lots of girls coming in now that are just really gifted, that are really picking things up really, really fast. Like Tessa came in and she killed it with it like so soon. And of course she has the name, but that's separate. I feel like she's put in the work. She's gotten so much better. She's just really taken off. And Rachel Ellering, both killing it. And like lots of these girls that are just sensations really, really quick. And I'm hard on myself because I'm like, wow, it was 4 years as Jessie Kaye, and now it's been a year as Kennadi Brink, and it's been a long journey for me. And so I'm just like, why am I not farther? Or why am I not this? Or why am I not that? Or why can't I be this? It's really hard for me to remember that I was never an athlete, or I've come so far already. So
yeah, and you came in a little bit before this girl revolution kind of kicked up.
Right.
And all girls that kind of came in right as it kicked up, they're like, oh, new girl. Because that's what always happens, even for guys.
Right.
If there's a new guy that can do a couple flips, we just digest them as fast as possible.
Right.
Put them in like better matches, put them against guys like me that make them look good.
Right.
And then like, oh, he had a great match. And then you elevate him to a high level and then usually put him on the belts. And then like, wait a minute, he's not as good as we thought. And then they kind of disappear. And then some of them don't know how to handle it. And they either find a comfort zone that's like not pushing forward, or they're off to the side, or they just disappear.
Right.
But then the people that have been around long enough, sometimes like, oh, I already know who they are, and they have this perception of you and stuff like that. So like there is a little bit of that, like, oh, I already know her. Yeah. So you can't make that first sensation right away. So those people that came in right when it boomed, they really benefited, and then they started signing girls off the indies, and then all of a sudden there's more influx of spots, there's more female wrestling shows, so there's all kinds of things, there's all kinds of forward progression. So even those people that were kind of that situation, like, I already know her, I get the deal, you can still move forward a little bit. Right.
Absolutely. And I feel that now, because I'm trying to say, well, maybe the first few years was because I was still in college, so I wasn't absolutely 100%, focused to wrestling. It was something that I got bookings on the weekends, and I trained, but not like I do now. Yeah, you know what I mean. This is like I work and I train, and that's it. So as a year as Kennadi Brink, I think it's been good. I went to California. I did PWS this year. I made my debut for Ring of Honor. Doing Ring of Honor again in the next month. So. It's all good things. Of course, Queens of Combat has been insane as well, and trying to work my way into Shimmer soon too. So it's all been great things. So, I'm definitely on the best track possible that I've ever been.
Absolutely. Well, we are getting pretty close to the end here.
Oh my gosh!
But basically, we're kind of getting to this point that we built right up to my question. Basically, the whole reason I do this podcast is to ask this one question.
Oh, God.
Okay? And I get people from all varying walks of life. Mm-hmm. Restaurant, brewers, comedians, wrestlers, politicians, artists, musicians, everybody. All people walks of life. And basically, I bring them into their home studio, or I bombard them at their house or their offices. And we talk for however long, just to warm up for this one question about the topic of success. Mm-hmm. What is it for you? How do you define it? Is it even defined in your brain? Is it something that you lead toward every day? Does it have a dollar sign attached to it? Is there like what about success that pops in your mind when I say the word success?
It's a great question, man.
That's why it takes about 45 minutes to warm somebody up to it.
And I don't know if I know the answer to that, because I guess for me, I have the expectation of being signed. And I don't know if anything less than that will be a success in my head. I don't know if that's going... I don't know if that's...
So you haven't compromised those goals yet?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I always feel like even I can never appreciate what I do. It's never enough in my head. So I don't know if, even if I do get signed, I'll be like, well, no, it's just signed. Everyone gets signed, whatever, And then I'd be like, well, everyone gets on the main roster. It's fine. Well, I don't know, WrestleMania, everyone gets there, So I
But it does look like that right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it does look like that everybody gets signed, and it's crazy now, the forward progression that is happening right now.
Right.
And it's very, like... I try to explain this to the students we have at our school. Like, you don't understand that you are in the best time ever.
Right.
In 2009, I was ready. But guess what? That's when they're like shitting on somebody like CM Punk. Like, he's just an indie guy. If you're shitting on that guy, you're definitely not going to give a guy like me an opportunity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Like, he's on your main roster and you fucking hate that he's there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not, and you just want to get football players.
Right.
Like, that's when I was ready.
Right.
And like, I knew it would be years before we ever get to I knew we would get to this place.
Right.
But I didn't think that my body or my mind or my passion would last that long.
Right.
Well, right now, this is the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, yes, it's the idea of the expectation of getting signed.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, you don't reaching that. Like,
right. Then what? Like,
how do you deal with that?
Exactly.
Trust me, compromising your dreams.
Yes.
Once you do that, you can't go backwards. You can't flip that back to like, okay, now I'm focused on this right now.
Right.
You can't get that back.
Right. And I think ultimately too, I work at Cracker Barrel right now. I love, they're so flexible, super cooperative, but I'm sick of asking people how they want their eggs, or that the mama's pancake breakfast is my favorite breakfast. Like I want to make money wrestling, and that be my sole, focus. And I just, people would say that I'm a success now because I've come so far and I'm doing things I never thought I'd be able to do. But
don't you hate those people? Like,
yeah, I do.
Good. All right.
I mean, yeah, it's great, but that's not what I want. That's not what I've worked so hard for. That's not what I wanted to achieve. That's not it.
Can't rest on your laurels. You can't just be, I'm successful now. Like, that's a nice thing to fucking feel. Like, but I don't think I'm ready to feel that. So
right, and I'm also just working on just appreciating what I have done, and trying to see that I've made strides and that I can do that.
Just to keep a little bit of self-love.
Yeah, trying.
Okay. So anyways, getting signed. That's the idea of success right now.
Yeah, for me, yeah. Yep, absolutely. So,
like I said, this is the best time. It's the all-girl revolution. Yep. The way the whole process is going right now, the fact that they just did this whole cruiserweight thing and it was successful, it leads me to believe the next evolution is an all-girl tournament like this.
That'd be incredible.
And the girl rapture will happen very soon. So who knows what'll happen there.
I'm hoping.
And obviously, all it takes is just to have that one good match during that time.
Exactly.
And that's obviously a path that happens.
Exactly.
So I've seen that happen to friends of mine. But anyways, before we get out of here, can you please let everybody know how they can get in touch with you, book you, follow you on social media, all of those tags, all of those things. You have a live microphone. You're a performer. You know what to do.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to book me, get in contact with me any way, shape, or form, you can always email me at kennadybrink@gmail.com. That's KENNADI Brink, BRINK @gmail.com. It's not Kennadi. It's not Kennadi. It's Kennedy. Yes, I picked that spelling. And then on Instagram, on the Twitter, it's Lady LADYK Brink, BRINK. So those are those two. And then Facebook.com/Kennadi Brink, KENNADI BRINK.
Okay. Well, Kennedy, thank you very much for coming home studio. And thank you for your hard work this week at Queens of Combat. You had really good matches this weekend.
It was a lot of fun. It's definitely some things out of my comfort zone. And it was a great experience both nights.
You rose up to the challenge. So thank you very much.
Thank you.